On behalf of Indira Gandhi National Open University, we welcome you for this video lecture session. Today's topic is People Change Management. This topic is from the course Power Distribution Management, and Power Distribution Management course is one of the courses in Advanced Certificate in Power Distribution Management. I am Subhasis Maji, Professor in School of Engineering and Technology from Indira Gandhi National Open University. This topic is from Power Distribution Management. So let us first give a brief introduction to the Power Distribution Management. In today's scenario, India is having a national grid whose capacity is 371 gigawatt of electricity, and India is the third largest producer of electricity and third largest consumer of electricity in the world. And out of this 371 gigawatt of power, 35.94% of total power generation is from renewable energy sources, including large hydro plants. Now, in the power sector, there are a lot of changes already taking place. For example, in power distribution sections, there are power generation, then transmission, then power distribution. There are losses in the power distribution sections, that loss we call it T&C loss, technical and commercial loss. Technical losses are due to the transmission of power over a large distance through the conductor, and this loss generally expressed as I square R, that is I is the current, R is the resistance, so power loss is I square R. So if we transmit the power at a very high voltage, then definitely the current will be less and power loss will also be less. But if you think of the other kind of loss like the commercial loss, that is very important, because that commercial loss is due to tampering of the meters as well as the theft of power, and this theft of power generally occurs in the JJ clusters, call it Juggi Jhupri class, and resettlement areas and unauthorized areas. So generally they steal power and there is a massive loss. In Delhi itself, the total loss because of the theft of the power is around 25%, and in Bombay it is slightly less, in Calcutta also in slightly less, but in Delhi the loss is tremendous because there are so many slum areas, there are so many Juggi Jhupri clusters are there, and there are so many unauthorized and some unauthorized colonies are also there for decades. Now NDPL, that is North Delhi Power Limited, they had conducted a study with a project funded by USAID, United States Agency for International Development. They funded the project. What they did, they surveyed in Juggi Jhupri class sectors, and they said that it is better to use with legitimate electricity connections, because if this theft is continuing, then definitely there will be adverse situation for the persons, those who are involved in this part. So what they did, they said that we will give the connections, but for each connections the consumer will have to pay rupees 350 only one time and 50 rupees per month for 2 years. So 50 rupees for 2 years, that comes out to be 1200 rupees plus 350 rupees, that is 50 rupees. So 1550 rupees they have to give, that is for infrastructure development, and when the power is to be supplied to them, they have to only pay 175 rupees per month, and that was a very nice proposal for the Jubbi class or unauthorized class. They agreed, and it was a great success for NDPL, who have conducted this project with the funded by USAID. So this change occurs in the power sectors at Delhi, but one very interesting thing is this, that there are a lot of changes occurred in power sectors in terms of paying the bill or receiving the bill through mails, and in this regard ICT, that is information and communication technology, played a vital role, and the management, they were leveraging the power of information and communication technologies for smooth conduction of all kinds of operations in the power distribution and sector. Now today's this topic is people change management. So let us see that how the changes takes place in an organization, and when the changes are introduced, what are the resistance comes due to the changing process for that organizations, and how the management can overcome this change process. That is today's discussion, and the topic is people change management. After listening to this video lecture, you will be able to understand organizational change. You will be able to know the employee response to organizational change. You will be able to discuss resistance to organizational change, and you will also be able to describe the managing resistance to change. Organizational change may be defined as an organization-wide effort to augment the effectiveness of an organization by strengthening, modifying or replacing the culture, structure, technology, task and human process through the application of planned intervention with or without the assistance of external agents. Now you see that changing process has to be embedded with the system for any organization. There is a saying that change is the only concept in our life. Therefore, change has to be the only constant in any organizations. You see that when the mobile phone was first introduced, the size was very big, the payment, the incoming and outgoing calls were very high, but nowadays there is a change in the mobile using, and therefore you will see that nowadays that having a mobile is not a luxury, but it is a necessary. You will get any information at any time. You can book the railway ticket, air ticket or bus tickets. You can also pay the money for any purchasing through the mobile. So it is a necessary, not a luxury goods. So there is a lot of changes takes place. Even in the computer, you might have seen that when the computer was first introduced, and when at Indian Institute of Technology in 1980s, first computer was installed, that is ICL 1960, and there was a huge building full of heavy machineries for that particular computer. Brand is ICL 1960. But nowadays you see there is a massive change takes place in the computer technology. Even with the big size has converted to a laptop or a small computers or even a very sophisticated mobile, in which you can use that for any kind of operations which generally you do with the computer. But when any changes is introduced in any organizations, there are resistance. That is a natural phenomena, because the employees for that particular organizations will try to maintain the same status quo. They want to do the same kind of work coming to the organizations and doing the stereotype work, and they will be happy to leave that organizations at the end of their job. But if you want to introduce any changes, then there is a fear psychology comes into their mind. So definitely there is a natural process that they will object, or there will be resistance for changing process. Now let us see that what kind of resistance comes, and there may be some employees who will be in favor of changing process. So for them, how they will react at the time of any changing process for that particular organizations. Now this changing process may be in the manufacturing industries or in the service sector. You will find that the car manufacturing companies, if you purchase a car in today's date, but after 2 years you will find that they are reintroducing the same kind of car after some modifying in the engine or adding some new features, so that the car will be more attractive to the customers, and customers will be delighted for getting that particular new model having new features and new new engines, which gives a good return for your money. See, there are negative responses. See this figure, that who wants change? If you ask this question to the employees, who wants change, then definitely all the people will say yes, we all want change. But when you ask who wants to change, then you will find that the response is not at the same as you are asking who wants change. See, negative responses, people will say not me. When any organizational change takes place and employees are asked to do a different job or change the way they have been used to do a particular job, initially there could be shock or denial. Reactions such as I can't do this, this can't be happening to me, I can't do this job, are most common response from the employees. Employees would like to know exactly how this change would affect them in terms of their job security, working hours, finance and family. The question arises, what will this do to my job security? In general, they will first think of their job security. The needs of the organization may come second, next priority for them. Now sometimes there will be angry or anger. Depending on the nature of change, the employees may feel anger and show resentment or sadness. They may say that this is not fair. Why are they doing this to me? Are the normal reactions. Some employees are so resistant to change that they become frustrated and angry. Their anger may be repressed, causing an increase in stress level and resulting in emotional outburst. Gossip, always an organizational challenge, often suits up during period of change. Employees who feel a loss of power and control may respond with frustration, anger and disbelief and resort to vicious gossip or backstabbing activities. Panic. Those employees who find comfort in a predictable routine panic at the mere mention of change. They worry about changes in the way they normally proceed with their jobs on regular basis. They may resist not out of stubbornness but out of fear about how the changes will impact them personally. They may be too plagued with panic to deal rationally with the new regime, and some may actually become physically ill. And next response is I quit. If this changes are incorporated in the organization, I quit. That is their response. There may be a few employees who opt for quitting rather than making the needed changes. Now let us discuss about the positive response. Some employees will be thrilled because some changing process is to be incorporated in the organizations, that is for the betterment of the organizations. Then sometimes the same type of job employees while doing, they feel boredom. So to remove their monotony, they will definitely embrace the new changes which are there. Of course, the changes are required for the growth of the organizations, and if they feel that after incorporating these changes, there may be progress for their organizations and the mission and visions are to be fulfilled for the pre-assigned targets for the organizations. Some employees view change as a challenge. They take it as a challenge. They are certain that they can rise to the occasion since they are confident about the capability to perform in the change situation. They know their strength. They feel that if changes takes place, then there will be no problem because they can do or perform the work in any situation. They remain open to new ideas, ask questions and feel confident in their ability to acquire the knowledge needed to complete the task. Enthusiasm. Some employees naturally approach life and challenges more enthusiastically than others. Enthusiastic employees embrace change instead of trying to pick apart a proposed change and finding all the ways that it would not work. They see it as a natural part of an organization's evolution. Their feelings is like that maybe I could adjust to this change. Maybe I can be helpful for the change. Maybe I can take part in the changing process. So, not all employees embrace change enthusiastically or jump out of their seats to accept the challenge. Some watch from the sidelines but remain open-minded. After a period of observation, they may agree to give the change a chance. While they may not be eager to participate in the change process initially, they acknowledge the possibility of adjusting to the change a chance. While they may not be eager participants in the change process initially, they acknowledge the possibility of adjusting to the change. So they are in the positive frame of mind, but initially they may not take part. They will be watching initially, but after that they say that yes, definitely it is a good thing for the organizations and why not to participate in the changing process. Positive vision. Some employees are able to understand the bigger picture and envisage the possibilities. Their positive attitude towards change is based on broader awareness of the marketplace, the specific industry and their competitive position in it, and an absolute trust in their company's future. Such employees generate a positive vision among their co-workers and encourage them to have trust in leadership during times of change and transition. Because the technology is transforming, there is a continuous improvement for the technology, and the new technologies are coming for giving the more sophisticated products. In car manufacturing sectors, you will find that previously the mechanical engineers mainly were involved, and to some extent electrical engineers were also involved for the lighting system, but now it is that it is the interdisciplinary work. The mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, even for civil engineers and electronics engineers, all are involved for any manufacturing product, because mechatronics is also involved, robotics is also involved. The mechatronics, robotics and control systems are also involved for the particular product. You will find that in the modern washing machines, that so many control systems are embedded with that particular system. And now IoT things are coming, that is Internet of Things. Any machine can be connected with internet, from anywhere you can operate that particular machine, even if you are not at home. You can operate your washing machines even while you are outside your home with the message given to that particular machine through internet. So nowadays those things are coming. So there is a massive change even for different products which we are using in our day-to-day life. So let us see that how we can overcome this, the oppositions for changing process. Now, employee response pattern, there are 4 distinct response patterns in transition behavior. So first of all, see that for any employee, they have the capacity of doing the work and comfort with change. So we will discuss how the comfort of change and the capacity of change differs for different magnitude of comfort with change and the capacity for change. Now you see that if any employee is having low comfort with change and low capacity for change, individuals with these response patterns are called overwhelmed. Their primary transition behavior is to withdraw from the fray and avoid new learning. So in that case, some people having low capacity for change and low comfort with change, definitely they will not take part in the changing process and they will withdraw from the changing process. Sometimes they quit from the organization because of the changing process. There is a fear, there is uncertainty, that psychology plays with that. But if it is explained properly, if there is a training process or some kind of workshops conducted for explaining, or the modern communication technologies can be used for proper educating those persons about the changing, then definitely this problem we can overcome. So later we will come to that point. First of all, let us see that how comfort with change and capacity for change plays a very important role for changing process. But for a low comfort with change and low capacity for change, individuals with these response patterns are called overwhelmed. Their primary transition behavior is to withdraw from the fray and avoid new learning. Number 2, low comfort with change and high capacity for change. That means that person is a skilled person. He knows how to job, but they are having low comfort with change. In that condition, individuals with this response are called entrenched. Their basic transition behavior involves tenaciously clinging to narrow learning that worked in the past but are of limited value in the new reality. So in that case, since they are skilled persons, so in the past they might have done well for particular change, but in the present scenario there is a massive change, so it is not possible for them to take part in this changing process easily. Number 3, high comfort with change and low capacity for change. So employees of these response types are called BSers because they deceive themselves and others. Their transition behavior is aggressive and grounded in high drive and low substances. Number 4, high comfort with change and high capacity for change. This is the best option for the changing process, and the management will be very happy if some employees is having high comfort with change and high capacity for change. That means they are really want to do the change in the system. Such employees are the learner type. The primary transition behavior of the learner involves positively dealing with the change, engaging and learning new, more relevant skills. Now, these are depicted in this diagram, and 4 distinct response patterns and transition behavior of employees. See, in the horizontal axis that depicts capacity for change, it may be extremely low or it can be extremely high, and the vertical axis showing comfort with change. Now, you see that if the capacity for change is low, comfort with change is also low, so that means that employees behaviors are known as overwhelmed. They will not take part in the changing process, and their motivation is not to participate in this changing process because there is uncertainty, there is a fear, and for them, but definitely that management can take corrective action so that they should also take part. We will come to that discussions in the later, but let us see the diagrams. Now you see, for the second case we have discussed, that is the capacity for change is high. That means that person is skilled and they can do the work, but their comfort with change is less. So in that case, that is not a favorable scenario for the employees to take part in the changing process. But for the third case, we have discussed that comfort with change is high, but capacity for change is less. So in this case, you see that it is not a favorable area, and we call it, this is BSRS. And the fourth option is the capacity for change is high and the comfort with change is also high. That is, the behavior of the employees are as learners. They are the persons who will participate in the changing process. Resistance to change is a natural phenomenon. It is obviously to come for any organizations who would like to introduce a massive changing process in that organizations. It is an inevitable response to any major change. There are several reasons for which employees oppose any change. By nature, individuals often fear the unknown. If there is any uncertainty, definitely the entropy will increase. There is uncertainty or disorderliness of any systems, then definitely the employees will be having some fear psychosis and they will not take part for the changing process. They tend to defend the status quo, particularly if they feel that their security or status is in danger. Some may view change as a threat to power or control. Folger and Skarlicki in 1999 claims that organizational change can generate skepticism and resistance in employees, making it sometimes difficult, even impossible to implement organizational improvement. Because of the resistance force, it is very difficult to implement any changing process, and Some management experts says that in most of the organizations 50% cases are there where the management would like to have changes for the betterment of the organizations, but the employees, because of the resistance from the employees, they could not succeed. Reasons for resistance to change, this we have already discussed, but here we have summarized like loss of control, too much uncertainty, surprise and surprise. That means if you suddenly introduce any change, then the employees will look at as a surprise, suddenly it is coming. Then the cost of confusion, loss of face. That means if some people may think that presently they are doing the routine job and they are actually accustomed for completing that job in a stereotype manner, but if there is a change takes place, they may not be able to complete that job easily. So they feel that if they don't perform well, then it will be bad for them. That is the loss of face. Concerned about competence, more work. Sometimes people think that if there is a change in the system, then more work they have to do. But the employees would like to come to the organizations in time and go at the particular time. Generally, they don't like to do more work. Ripple effect. That means if there is something wrong or if they don't wish to do for any changing process, the other works, regular works may also hamper. This is known as the ripple effect. Then past resentment and real threats. In a nutshell, resistance to change is an emotional, behavioral response to real or imagined threats to an established work routine. Notwithstanding the cause, resistance can be powerful and it may really be an encumbrance to the implementation of any change process. As Rick Maurer in 1996 in his book Beyond the Wall of Resistance indicates, more than 50% of change efforts in organization are unsuccessful, mainly because of employees' resistance. Employees' resistance may take different forms: persistent reduction in outputs, increase in the number of quits and request for transfer, chronic quarrels, sudden hostility, wildcat or slowdown strikes. Sometimes this may lead to strikes, and of course the expression of a lot of pseudo-logical reasons why the change will not work. So these are the outcomes may come while changing process is in progress. Some persons, they out of fear they may quit. Some persons, they may say that they would like to confusion because there is no proper information to them. So ways in which people resist change: confusion, immediate criticism, denial, malicious compliance, sabotage, easy agreement, deflection or silence. So these are the ways in which people resist change. Now, managing resistance to change, this is a very important, because after all the authorities or the management who are running this organizations, they will educate the people, those who are coming for resistance in a proper way with modern communication technologies or some seminar, workshops or webinar. They will try to educate. Now, managing resistance is one of the most disconcerting and taxing tasks faced by the organization the world over. It is a gigantic task to convince the employees that actually this changing process is good for the organizations. In turn, it will also be good for the employees. Managing resistance to change. Cotter and Silsinga have put forward 6 approaches to manage resistance to change. education and communication, involvement and participation, facilitations and support, negotiations and agreement, manipulations and co-options, and explicit and implicit coercions. There are 4 practical steps that all managers can embark on to reduce dysfunctional anxieties and motivate constructive behavior. Otherwise, failed change efforts would be very costly. Cost includes decreased employees' loyalty, lower probability of achieving corporate goals, a waste of money and resources, and difficulty in fixing the failed change effort. Convince people. The first and probably the most important step to ensure that people understand emotionally, not intellectually, why they have to change. Build in participation. A clear result from the research on change management is that employee participation increases individual ownership and excitement, and in turn decrease individual resistance to change. Recognize and reward desired new behavior. If individuals see that new attitudes and behaviors are being rewarded, they are more likely to accept change and behave accordingly. Sometimes if there is a massive change, the organizations announce that if the changing process is established successfully, then those who are participating in the change, they will be promoted. So if the reward is tagged with the changing process, then it will work very smoothly. Provide time and opportunity to disengage. Individuals often respond to strategic change with a sense of personal loss. They mostly mourn the passing of the old order before they become psychologically transitioned. By providing time, opportunity, and setting for individuals to celebrate the past, as well as to see the promise and opportunities in the future. Because a person or any employee who are habituated for doing a particular job in a particular way, suddenly if you ask that you have to do in some other way with some other technique, definitely they will be feeling sad. So they will take some time to give up that particular habit, and they will embrace the new thing which is coming on their way. The process for change, you have learned so far that change is the process of moving from the current state to the desired state, the vision of the future. Making a change involves moving the workforce in organizations and its work culture in line with the strategies, structures, process, and systems to achieve the desired states. See, existing situation, that is, if it is outdated, if there is a change required, then that comes for change, that is the transition. Then when the change is established, that is vision, desired situation. Successful change, the 3-step model: unpresent, intervening, that is the changing process, that is moving, and rephrasing. When the change is already taking place, then we will preach, that is called rephrasing. And this is very important, that is the Lewis model for changing process. Now when the change is being introduced, there are 2 types of force. One is in favor of change, that is the driving force, and there is a force who are not in favor of change. That means they are against the change. That force is known as restraining force. Obviously, if the restraining force is more than the driving force, then change will never take place. But if there is an equilibrium position, that driving force is equal to the restraining force, that means the force for the changing process and the restraining force, that is the against the change, and if they are in equilibrium, then also there will be no change take place. But if there is a change required, in that case the driving force, that is the force in favor of change, has to be more than the restraining force, that is the force due to against the change. So the force field says that the driving force has to be more than the restraining force in order to have changing process in any organizations, whether it is a manufacturing company or in any servicing sector. CDS model, this is a very important 3-step model, and the 3 states are assessment of the current states, developing the desired states, and formulating the strategy plan to move the organizations or system from the current state to the desired states. See, here planning is very important, because if we plan properly, definitely the changing process will be there, but if we fail to plan properly, that means we are planning to fail in the changing process. And this is ADPI model, organizational analysis. Then next is designing change intervention, that means the changing process is already started. Then comes to the planning, the change. We have to plan it properly, how to implement, how to give the logistic support to the employees for the changing process, or when the change is already taken place, then what are the logistic supports, what are the training and other supports we have to give to the employees, so that they will be comfortable, they will be in a comfortable positions even in the changing scenario, changing takes place. Then implementation, this is very important, because once you design, once you plan, then everything is done, but we have to implement that changing process in the organization. That is very important, and so this completes the whole cycle. Now organization analysis, this phase aims at developing an understanding about the organization, its culture and readiness for change. Efforts are made to understand the task structure, strategies, systems, procedures and management practices, moral motivations and internal and external environment. Then designing change intervention. At this stage, the vision or the desired state of the organization is prepared. Active involvement of top management and wide agreement on the interventions are essential. Planning for the change. The objective of this stage is to plan for effective and desired changes for achieving the vision. An action plan is prepared indicating the activities, responsibilities, time frame, counting, hues, measures and required resources, and it has to be smart. Then time bound is very important, because if we can't implement within the desired time, then when the changing takes place after the time, then it may be outdated. Say for example, the computers, that advancement of computers are going on so fast. If you plan for any changes in the computer systems, then if you take more time, then when you introduce in the market, that may be outdated. So time, it has to be done within time frame. Implementation, this is the most crucial stage. The action plan has to be implemented and the persons involved have to be educated and convinced about the gains. Extensive communication is required and high orders of leadership skills, especially pursuing skills, are required. Common interventions for managing changes. Education and training, this is very important, and the modern management authorities are leveraging the power of information and communication technology, ICT, for imparting education and training system. All involved persons may have the required knowledge, but we have to train in such a way that if the persons may not have desired environment, organizational, functional, technical, financial, strategic, behavioral knowledge and skills, education and training is very essential at all stages. So, if the employees are in a confusion state about the change, then education and training is very essential to educate them, to so that they can understand that that change is necessary for the organizations as well as for the employees also. Participation and involvement, the persons likely to be affected need to be involved right since the stage. Their active involvement in all stages of the processes will not only provide valuable ideas at every stage, but also inculcate a sense of involvement. Facilitation and support. Facilitation is a process in which a person acceptable to all members of the group, substantially neutral and having no decision making authority, intervenes to help a group improve the way in which it defines and solves problems and makes decisions in order to enhance the effectiveness of the group. Facilitation is of two broad types: basic facilitations and development facilitations. Negotiation is quite useful in dealing with resistance to change. It also useful when resistance comes from a powerful person. Three basic types of negotiating styles have been described, that is top better, the supportive facilitators and cognitive reasoner. Assigning a key individual member a desirable role is quite effective in managing change. We call it co-opting. The co-opted person becomes a key resource person in change of project, and by way of his or her power base is able to influence others. Manipulation. This technique comprises covert influencing tactics which uses twisting and distortion of facts to make them appear more attractive and potent. This also includes hiding or withholding undesirable information and creating rumors. Coercion, implicit and explicit. This involves applications of direct threats or force on those who are resisting or are likely to resist. In some situation it may be successful, but in most circumstances it is not effective. You know very well that in some organizations, if they want to implement some change and they know very well that there are some particular persons who will object or who will resist vociferously, so in that case the management can threat them, the management can force them not to involve in such situation. Sometimes they ask to take forced leave so that they will not be in the organizations, to create the problems for not implementing the changing process. Now, dear learners, we have discussed about the change management, and let us very quickly summarize what we have discussed. We have discussed organizational change, we have discussed employees' response to organizational change, and we have also discussed how to overcome the changes. Thank you very much.